The Inside Stepinac Basketball Podcast is back, and once again, it is brought to you by All Pro Cleaning and Restoration, a Balfour company, commercial, residential property restoration and construction company. Services include fire and water damage restoration, mold remediation, HVAC, duct cleaning, and complete construction services. Been a valued service provider for Westchester County and the Tri-State area for over 35 years and a proud supporter of Stepinac basketball, as is White Plains Hospital, a sponsor of GameDay One, and has been so good to high school athletics, Stepinac basketball, and GameDay One since we started. And now, the Inside Stepinac Basketball Podcast with Coach Patrick Massaroni. Inside Stepinac Basketball Podcast, episode 13 of season 2 here at LMC Media Studios. Kevin Devaney Jr. I want to thank our sponsors, All Pro Cleaning and Restoration, White Plains Hospital, and our host, Patrick Massaroni, joining us. So you're coming in, you're a little dressed down. Last week you were in Rayo's attire. You're going to Rayo's right afterwards.
Right after.
And you're wearing a nice jacket and stuff. This week you're dressed down. And I said, you're off this week, right? He goes, well, I'm not. You said I'm not off. I said, I'm not saying you're off. I meant the school's off.
The advancement team does not follow. We don't have the same. School's closed, midwinter break. Yeah. But the advancement team that my day job is involved with, and my staff and my team for the advancement team, we don't follow the school breaks. So
gotcha.
We do get days off around the holy days and standard holidays, but no, we're there. We're there. We're grinding. We're working.
12 months,
and we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. So the obvious question.
Also, by the way, my wife told me that she was like, so she went to the gym, then we were swapping, and I was leaving for work.
Yeah.
And she complimented my outfit, which doesn't happen very often.
No, it's rare.
But she was very happy, very impressed with what I was dressed in today.
It's a good look.
Yeah,
it's a good look. You guys are last week the advancement office did that team I'm talking about. The Rayos lunch, how did that go?
Yeah, unbelievable. 38 people down at Rayos. My first time there. The meatballs were what advertised, the whole experience. Great lunch, great way to kick off our 24 hours of giving for the Stepinac community. We raised close to a little under $240,000 in 24 hours. Over 700 donors, and it amazes me every year. We started the Giving Day when we left the conference 9+ years ago, and to be able to do that and raise that amount of money, and it's from everybody. It's parents, the students participate in a dress down day, alumni, benefactors, our board, foundation board, parents, supporters, faculty, staff. The coolest part for me was like the amount of former players that gave anywhere from $5 to beyond, and some of them are college kids not making NIL, and some are, but very supportive, and a great 24 hours. And it really, credit to the team I have of Paul Thomas and Dennis Buckley, Anthony Tornatori, brother Fred Sambar. We had help from the finance office and Eric Darcy and some others. So it was a tremendous success.
How hard is it to, as the basketball coach and helping put players in college and NIL, to not say, hey, you guys want to donate some money to the school? Like, do you do that? I mean, is it like, I guess it's their alumni, right? So
yeah. I mean, look, everybody's different. The guy who's a sophomore, maybe playing on Division I basketball, a little different than somebody making, $1 million playing college basketball. So I always say the guys that have played for us have been beyond supportive. Everybody looks at, famous people to support their schools, and some guys do and some don't. Our guys do. So, and whatever we ask them to do, they support us. Everybody's philanthropic in different ways. Everybody's money is different. I think the ability for us to raise money at Stepinac basketball and beyond is just because of the product we have, and the academic product, keeping the Catholic identity in a time when that's not so much the case, the rigorous schedule that our student athletes and students go through, and just the overall extracurricular from the clubs to sports to theater and beyond. So it is pretty cool, and my colleagues talk about it all the time when, I blank. I think I texted every guy that almost, if I have their current number, to participate, and they did. So
that's great.
Did. Yep.
You guys are coming off a nice win, 21-4 record now after beating Monsignor Scanlan Last night, 91-62. 5 players in double figures. Josiah leading with 23-6 assists and 4 rebounds. Darius, 15. Adonis, 12. Hassan, 12. Josh Rivera, 12. I mean, this is pretty much 91 points. How you would like to draw it up pretty much every game. Is that right?
Yeah, without a doubt. And just to hit on, I think just because we played 2 games now, and we didn't even talk about this, so it just popped. Yeah. I've been thinking about it since last night. So obviously Rodney Swain, who's been with me for all my 11 years, has been my associate head coach, is going through some health issues at the moment. He's okay. He's recovering. He had some procedures done. He hasn't been with us the last 2 games, and potentially for the foreseeable future. So we just keep him in our prayers and thoughts. Our guys have been in communication with him. I've seen him. But many people were asking last night just because the spotlight was a little bigger. The crowd was a little bigger where he was. And as he goes, he's doing well and he's recovering. And hopefully we'll get him back on the sideline soon. So just wanted to mention that as we at the beginning of the show here. But to shift a little bit to last night, I mean, 5 guys in double figures, 24 assists, I think on 34 makes was tremendous. And, you know, I go back to it's the same thing in the city championship last year. So Dylan Perry's not one of the guys with double figures, but he guarded, in my opinion, their best player from start to finish until he got subbed out. And other guys in there, you know, the Jack Cocos, Amir Smiths, guys that gave us really good energy off the bench. So, but the ball was moving, the unselfishness. And when we want to guard, we could guard with the best of them. I mean, we went on a run there at the end of the first quarter, led into the second quarter, and you look up next, you know, it's a 20-point game. And we got a little lazy to start the second half, but then regrouped and really showed how good we could be, especially when that starting 5 is unselfish.
Yeah.
And then you bring Josh off the bench. He was 4 for 4 off the bench. Second game in a row that he's made 3+ threes. It's just another weapon. And then I thought the immediate energy of Jack Coco and Amir Smith, you know, totally different, right? When you go from 6'5" to 6'5", 6'7", 2 7-footers, and then you bring in 5'9" and 6 foot. It's just like it's a totally different look that teams get, and they gave us great energy off the bench. And then it continued down. Jordan Archibald gave us good minutes, Elijah Noventy, and all 15 guys get in. So that usually doesn't happen in a playoff game. But it was nice to get our starters out with about 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and continue to keep the lead and play hard all the way to the end. Because I always say those guys, they compete every day in practice. And practice has been tremendous the last couple weeks, specifically the last 5 days.
Yeah, so you're talking about all 15. But let's just is your biggest challenge right now coaching-wise keeping them at the high level, you know, they can play? I mean, you said second half, they kind of fell asleep a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I thought the preparation – so we played CK on Tuesday. We had an off day Wednesday. But I thought the preparation Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and specifically Monday leading into Scanlan was different. It was like a different feel. And my staff, you know, and specifically Al have talked about, you know, trying to go on this championship run and do something that people haven't done. You need to have different mindset, and that's been our thing for our guys. And I think anytime you have a group of guys that are very talented, but also kids, you could get a little, you know, lackadaisical in what it is. Yeah. And for our guys, that really didn't happen. A little lull, you know, I would say on practice Saturday, a little bit, but we nipped it in the butt. And the competition, even from what we call the second unit and then the third unit, was elite all throughout. So. Yeah, I don't know if what exactly the word is, but the preparation is the biggest thing at this time of the year. And fortunate enough to have a great staff in that regard, and then a great group of kids that just are laser focused on what we're doing.
Laser focused on Cardinal Hayes on Saturday.
Yeah.
Mount. Give me what time is it on Saturday?
1 o'clock. 1 o'clock at Mount. We've been fortunate enough now, I think, 6 straight or 7 straight. Mm-hmm. I sent my man Resnick a note.
Yeah. Give me some updates on these numbers.
Yeah, he didn't get back yet. I think he's away, to be honest with you, or he was asleep at one of the two. He's a big night owl. So
big night owl. Yeah. You can text him at like 3 in the morning.
Yeah. He's usually awake. I could have called him last night, but he didn't answer me. So you know he listens to this. So this is early in the show to give a Resnick shout out.
There's a little bit of a poke.
Yeah. But he's got the whole analytics, and we had the one I go back to either 17 or 18. We lost to Mount, and then we won one. Then there was a year where it was Raymond's Hayes.
Okay.
And then we've been in the game since. Yeah. So I always say, and I told the team this last night, and I actually I had to talk to Dylan Butler this morning because they're doing the game Saturday. Mm-hmm. And I always feel the Tuesday night is more important than Saturday. And people criticize me for that. But you win Tuesday, you get the double bye to Fordham. So now the next set of playoffs, it's 3 games, versus 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And it becomes a huge deal. And I think Saturday is you're playing for a championship, and you got to be ready to go. But I would say that Tuesday concerns me personally more than Saturday, and that's every year because I want the double bye. Because then no matter what happens Saturday, you have 7.5 days to prepare for Fordham and go from there. But look, Hayes, I said at the beginning of the year, I think Hayes has unbelievable talent. They're extremely skilled. They have a big man who's gotten better year in and year out. He's a junior now. Malik Fields is first team All-League. AB, their big man at 6'9", is shooting it. He made 3 threes last night. And they're playing West Coast wild basketball. I mean, they are firing 25 to 35 threes a game. Literally, Joe Loads is adapted to what this team is, and they're really, really skilled. I think Bryce Yancey's a high major guard, if you ask me. Heck, their point guard has gotten better game in and game out. They got shooters coming off the bench. They got shooters there. They got senior energy guy. They're good. They're good, and they're extremely physical. They're fast, and they want to play the game at a high level. And we do too. We want to be up and down. We want to control it and what shots we get on a nightly basis. But they're extremely talented. Like I said, Joe, I always said, so when you're in the league, now I'm in year 11, right? You know certain guys you go against and who's going to change, who's going to adapt, who's going to do certain things. And Loads he ran set after set. He would take out his note card or index card, and it would just be set after set. And he would this team, there's no sets. I mean, they are firing. Literally, we played them a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
They got over half court. It's like Alabama, but no analytics. They are just firing threes.
Alabama, no analytics. That's good. Put it on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
We actually have a guest. We're not going to bring on our guest just yet. I want to ask you one more question before we bring on our guest. Right now, you're ranked number 7 in the country in Max Preps.
Yeah.
Start of the season, you were number 1.
Yep.
Paul the Six is number 1 right now. Obviously, they beat you guys twice. How important are these next few games, and how much do you care? It has to be in your mind a little bit that if you win out, as you hope to do, that you could be a top 5 team at the end.
Yeah. Look, we went from 1, right, which essentially preseason rankings.
Yeah.
When we were 1, we talked about this a couple months ago. It was a great feeling. We enjoyed it. You kind of look at the work you put in. Then we went from 1, lose the first game on the road in a true road game, to unranked.
Yep.
And then moved our way back up. Yeah. And I think people have seen it. So rankings I always say, in college basketball, right, Division I, there's 300 some odd schools. So to be top 25, right, you're out of that. The best is, throughout the season, we talked there's 40, 50, 60,000 high schools across the country. So I always feel like top 25 or some, like Ronnie Flores does top 50, some other rankings. It's hard to be ranked and to be consistent. It's good for the kids. It's good for the school. It's we're in every week, right? Usually ESPN Sports Center Next comes out on Monday. Max Preps usually comes out on Tuesday. Ronnie Flores usually comes out on Tuesday. And then there's some others. It's great marketing and press for the program and school. But, yeah, we love to be there. I told our team the other day, and I told them again before the game, the accolades and the awards are great, right? We've 3 McDonald's All-Americans, 4 League guys, Player of the Year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The other 4 seniors are all getting recruited. I don't care about the individual awards anymore. And if you care about the individual awards, that'll only hinder us going to try to be city champions. And nobody in the Catholic League has ever won 4 titles ever. Throw out the individual stuff. I don't care who's hot. I don't care who's not. Move the ball, be unselfish, have 20-plus assists, and guard and everybody will be individual winners.
Absolutely. You mentioned awards and McDonald's All-Americans, and a guy who knows a whole lot about that is going to join us on our show right now. It's Adam Finkelstein, who's the director of basketball scouting for CBS Sports, McDonald's All-American Selection Committee, and many other titles. Adam, thanks so much for joining us. Where are you joining us from first?
I'm at home, but I just want the record to show I put on my McDonald's gear for this this record-setting high school program here. I tried to come prepared.
Thanks. No, you did. And
he's done an unbelievable job transforming his home. I mean, the guy went from little closet there to his home office because he's on shows every day. I watch a lot of his stuff.
Let's be clear. This is awful, and it's got to go. And it has been suffice it to say, it has been a consistent topic of discussion for the last now 4 years since I've been at CBS. But yeah, so it's got to get updated. But
where do you live? Where do you live now?
I'm in Connecticut, so
okay.
I was at ESPN for 12 years, and that was convenient because I'm about 30 minutes away from Bristol. And then, when CBS recruited me away, we kind of had that discussion of like, hey, there's a studio in Nashville, there's a studio in Fort Lauderdale, and I was like, well, this probably isn't happening. And they're like, and there's a studio in Stamford, and I was like, great, let's do it.
So, yeah, nice. Well, we're based in Mamaroneck. It would have been great to have you come down, but on this bad weather day. But thanks so much for joining us, Adam, and just give us a little background. You talked about you were at ESPN before. How did you get into this business before we get talking about top talent here at Stepinac? But how did you get into it? How long have you been doing it? And how did you kind of find doing what you love now?
Well, I started off on the coaching side, and that was really what I wanted to do. So I was a student manager in college, and then I was got like a volunteer Division III job for a couple of years, and then I was on the road as a Division I assistant when I was 24. The SID at the time told me that made me the youngest Division I assistant coach in the country who hadn't played. There were some guys who played and then got hired. I wasn't that. And then a year later, we finished third in the league. We won Coach of the Year, and then we got fired. So it was like my introduction to college coaching. Yeah. And at 25, I just said, hey, I'm not sure I really want to do this anymore. At least it wasn't what I like. Like a lot of people, you dream of being a college coach, and you get there, and you're like, hey, this isn't what I thought it might be. And then I just, I really threw a lot of stuff on the wall, as the expression goes. So I was a prep school coach for 8 years. I started to work in the media, and I also I worked for Marty Blake, who was the director of scouting for the NBA at the time. So I was kind of pursuing 3 different pathways, and the media side is ultimately where I decided to go. Like I said, I spent 12 years at ESPN, initially just as like the New England guy, and then gradually to a national guy who worked with Paul Biancardi, who's still a great friend, although we're perceived as competitors now. And then CBS recruited me away. I think it's you could say I was like number 2. I like to say I was the associate head coach at ESPN until CBS came and offered me the head coaching job. So that's like the best analogy I have.
Absolutely. And that's a great, it's a great path. So you kind of have the credibility of coaching and the analytics and the analytics you bring into your job every day. And tell me about, what is a day-to-day job? What does a day-to-day job look like for you? Are you out of games? Are you watching film? What are you doing?
So it kind of depends on the time of year, right? So like the interesting thing about CBS is not only was I in charge of, the rankings or evaluating for the high school side, but I was also doing it for the NBA draft. And at ESPN, that was like church and state, right? We had like Paul Biancardi and our team was doing recruiting rankings. And then at the time it was like Jonathan Gavoni and Mike Schmitz were doing the draft. And there was little to no collaboration. We were all cooperative and got along and respected each other and all that, but like those were separate entities. They were funded differently, and so what appealed to me about CBS was the chance to kind of follow the prospect all the way through the journey. So how that influences your question is that I have to do both now. So I'm in charge. So this is kind of like a heavy NBA draft time because a lot of the high school events have subsided a little bit. Stepinac's a great example, right? Like saw him at Border League, saw him at City of Palms, saw him at Hoop Hall. But now it's time for them to play in their conference playoffs, right? So a lot of those showcase events are over. So for me, it's a time when I start to focus more on the NBA draft. And the other thing with CBS having the Final Four rights, obviously the NCAA tournament is by extension. This begins like a 6-week, 2-month period where I also get to dabble as a college basketball analyst, which is fun for me. It's usually player centric. But like today, I'll be on HQ, which CBS Sports HQ, later on tonight after the games to talk about the games. Then I'll be on CBS Sports Network this afternoon, again, talking about the games, usually in a player-centric type way. But that's been the fun thing, to kind of take this scouting job and apply it beyond just high school recruiting to do it. Because I always say, like, there's a lot of people who cover high school recruiting, but if you can't understand what's going on in a college game, then you really can't project how you fit in that. So it's fun that I kind of get a real, a thorough. I get to do the job from start to finish here, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're not ranking the players based on how they are in high school. It's more like how they're going to potentially translate to the college level. Tell me about
exactly.
Right now, how young do you look at players? Do you start looking in 8th, 9th grade? I saw something recently. A father posted class of 2032 ranking or something, and I was like, I'm like doing the math in my head. So are you into middle school? Because I think there's got to be a little bit of pressure to figure out who's going to be next.
24/7 is that I start to have an allergic reaction if I have to watch a 15 and under game.
Okay, good.
So the and the other thing we've talked about this, we've posted on this, we have pushed back the when we release rankings. So right now, our first ranking won't be until a kid's sophomore year in high school, and ideally it won't come until like midway through the year, if not the spring. Now that's later than the industry standard, because most media companies are just like trying to meet the demand, and there is a demand for these rankings, and there's companies that do it, and I'm not here to criticize them. I just don't personally believe in it. Ethically, I have a hard time telling some 13-year-old who's candidly probably better because he's like just closer to puberty than the other kid. I mean, that's the reality. The kid who's bigger and stronger is going to be better than at an early age, and the kid who's not. I mean, I see this at my kids' 10-year-old travel games. It's like, and so I don't watch middle. The earliest I see a kid is usually USA basketball in their 9th grade, like, and they'll have maybe 10 to 15 9th graders there. So I've seen some of the guys that end up, going from that level into the NBA. Like I'll have seen them the whole way through. Like Paolo Banchero, I saw him when he was in the 9th grade. Cooper Flagg, I saw him when he was in the 9th grade. AJ DeBonce, I happened to see him when he was in 8th grade because he was playing up with his high school team. But the vast majority of other kids, that is not my emphasis. In fact, at 24/7, we tend I have a colleague, Eric Bossi, who's in charge of managing the basketball part of the content and stuff, and does an amazing job. And he and I work in tandem. He handles the content and the website, and I handle the rankings. But he really enjoys watching those younger kids. So he handles a lot of the younger kid rankings, and then I start to get more involved as they get older. But each spring when the grassroots circuits begin, like my top priority is to see every sponsored 17 and under team, and I will try and knock all of those off before I see any 16s or any 15s. Okay. Now I do want to get like a little data point, so I will ideally go to USA Basketball, Nike Elite 100. Under Armour's got they run an underclassmen thing at IMG. So what that does is it gives me a quick snapshot that I can plot their overall trajectory, but it's not enough information to rank those kids. So long story short, I don't really believe in ranking kids any earlier than we absolutely have to.
Got it.
No, Adam, the one thing from my standpoint has been that I think over the 11 years that I've come to know you and followed you beforehand, right? At that time, you're at ESPN and even on the New England side, is that I think and so are many other guys. So I don't want this to come across as a dig to anybody, but like, you're always very transparent on the positives And I don't know if it's a negative, but like what a deficiency of a player or what they need to improve on, right? Whether the number one player in the country or you don't have them ranked, right? But most of them are you're covering or you're on a digital platform or TV because of how good they are, right? And what they need to improve on. I think in this industry, and I see it a little bit as a coach, like if you're not transparent and truthful with people, it's only going to hurt you. So like over your career, right, going back to coaching, to with Marty, to your own scouting service, to ESPN, to CBS Now, like what has it been? Can you just hit on to people, because we do get a lot of listeners, a lot of digital viewers now at our upgraded studio here, and guests.
Yeah, that's a big time setup.
Yeah, not bad, right? Not bad. So can you just hit on like over your career? I don't know if blunt or honest. I guess honest is the right word, but like you're not blunt. You're transparent. Like how did that come about, and how does that continue? Because you and I have had conversations, and I think for me, like I appreciate the feedback. I'm not. Other people are very argumentative, right? And I think you are very nasty to you and others in your position in this industry, depending on what company they're with. Just hit on like how you got to just being truthful and
my
responsive.
biggest problem. I'll go back to this, and I'm picking up my phone because I'm looking up a text I got the when rankings come out, and I just thought it would be a funny anecdote given that. I'll say this, like, take me back to that 24-year-old assistant at the University of Hartford. Yeah. The running joke was, Finkel always tell you what he thinks. So here's this 24-year-old, and I'd always be like, we practiced for too long, listen, sometimes it can be a good thing, sometimes it can be a bad thing, but I am very candid. I tell you what I think. As I've gotten older, I think I've learned to do it in a more gentle way, hopefully, and in a way, and been conscious of the way that the message comes across. But that's just who I am, and right, wrong, or indifferent. And I think so many of these kids who are, ranked and celebrated and gassed up, like there's such a trap component to that. So like, I view it as, I view honesty as the best way I can help them. You know what I mean? Like if there's so many people telling them that their future is a foregone conclusion and they're going to walk into $100 million when they get to the NBA. And so I think sometimes, I hope sometimes maybe like a little realism can be helpful. And at the same time, like I'm also very cognizant of like the psychological implications of somebody, telling a 15-year-old that their future is a foregone conclusion. So, but this text was funny. I got it. This was a high school coach or a prep school coach, and said, I figured you probably got a lot of negative messages, so I'd send a positive one. They were sending a message about, thanking me for a kid getting ranked. And my response was, this may surprise you, but I apparently have a reputation for being direct. So I don't get as many negative messages as you may think. Just because, like, I think people know, like, if you want to talk to me, be prepared for my answer, Yeah. So, because I'm going to tell you the truth. And
that's the coaching,
I try not to get into the back and forth on social media. Like, I've learned that lesson. Like, I'm not going to engage any of that stuff on social media. But if we want to have, like, I'm always open to have a real basketball conversation, but I'm going to tell you what I think too.
Yeah. You have to deal. So like, all right. So Dylan Mingo commits this week to UNC. Jordan Smith from Polo Six is going now to Arkansas. Calipari. So you go on CBS and have to talk about these players. And if you don't say 100% glowing things, you now have fan bases. So forget high school coaches.
Oh, yeah.
So what is that? And I know those are the last people in the world you should ever try and engage with or debate with, right?
Yeah, certain fan bases are nastier than others, I've found. But I'll tell you this. There's a reason why, like, I don't put my family's picture on my social media, because, like, I don't need some fan of some program who's not happy with the way I described a certain player to then, like, find my 13-year-old daughter or so, so, like, I don't do that.
Makes sense.
And so, like, you will not see my kids on social media. I think during COVID, like, I made a video with I put a video. It was like, how are you working from home? And it was like, pictures of them, but from behind. So I'll never, their faces aren't going up there. Yeah, there is some, but it's a double-edged sword too, right? So like, yes, that is taxing to have to deal with like some of the nonsensical, often inappropriate, like, you know, things you get. But at the same time, it's that passion and it's that fan base that makes the industry what it is and allows me to do what I love. So like, you know, my dad used to say for every asset, there's a liability. And for every, you know, conversely, for every liability, there's an asset. And without those passionate fans, albeit some of them who take it too far, the industry isn't what it is. And I'd be, I don't know. I mean, maybe a high school teacher and you know, like that's what I have my master's in education. So that may be, and trust me, that wouldn't be a good thing for the kids or me. So that's, you know, you've got to be appreciative of the enthusiasm at some point too.
Yeah, no, you do. You have to embrace it in some ways and just kind of take it for what it is when it's negative. Let's talk Stepinac and let's talk McDonald's, because obviously they have 3 players and it's a huge thing.
I voted for them all. That's all I have to say.
You voted for them all, which is great. All deserving.
It's a nice hoodie, by the way. I'm gonna have to. We're not the same size, so I'm gonna get one of those.
Is it fair to say phenomenon that is this Stepinac team to have 3 McDonald's All-Americans?
Yeah, I think it's the first time, right, that it wasn't, and I don't know the history like Patrick does, but it's just IMG and Montverde that they're the only ones to do it before.
Traditional high school.
Those are, if I'm not mistaken.
So because B Nash, and B Nash is not listening to the show, but B Nash did tweet at me down at IMG. That. So IMG was first.
Yeah.
And then it was the same year, the COVID year, or right after the COVID year, it was Montverde Prolific. They both had
Prolific
3.
Did too? Okay.
They both had 3. Montverde, that team with Cooper and Derek and Robert Wright and all them, Asa Newell. Who was the 5th there? They had 5 seniors. Liam McNeely, right? That was the year Boogie made it. We saw each other in Texas. That was Houston. So it's only 3. And I left IMG out and because I was given wrong information by one of your fellow voters, but I won't call that person out because I want to respect them. But it was
one of my company.
No, not your company. One of the fellow voters, but he told me it was
you know, we are the only company that has multiple voters. I'm just
saying. Right. No. But Montverde and Prolific, but the first was IMG. That was with Baycott's class. So IMG, Montverde, Prolific Prep, and now fortunate enough
to be in that company.
Yeah.
So what's historic about that is that Archbishop Stepinac, you know, I've been there, I've watched practice. Like it is a real local high school. It is not like a basketball factory. I mean, you guys don't have boarding, right? I mean, like it's not, you're not recruiting across the country, you know, flying kids in. So I don't know that we've ever had it sounds like we haven't ever had a true local high school playing in a local high school division have 3 McDonald's All-Americans. So from that standpoint, it's absolutely unprecedented. And it's also something that I don't know that we're going to ever see I won't say again, but for a really long time.
Yeah, amazing. When you look at, let's start with the Ratliffs. Everyone just assumes they're basically mirror images of each other. They have some differences in their games, some things that one's good at, one's better at. What do you see from a scouting perspective from Adonis and Darius?
Well, it's upside. It's an upside based conversation. I mean, you know, true to form, like about, you know, me saying, you know, just exactly what I think. You know, availability is going to be a factor. I know they've particularly Adonis has battled that for the better part of the last year. But you just don't find many guys who are, you know, right around 7 feet, who can move like that, who can jump like that, who can catch, who are athletic. I mean, I think what I wrote last December, meaning December of 2024, was like, they are the epitome of the modern big man prospect. And, you know, that has come through in national settings, not just in the EYBL or in the high school season. Like you put them in the Wooten camp or you put them in USA basketball, and there aren't just like, they stand out physically. They stand out with their sheer tools. So I think that, and as you mentioned, they've got some differences. You know, I think it's and let me be honest here. I will often, or at least annually, like call Patrick and be like, how are they progressing? What's your take? Because that's the other thing, just a little side point. when you have high school coaches you trust and who you know aren't going to just give you nonsense to perpetuate their own narratives, like you do that due diligence. And Patrick is certainly one of those where I'll call and be like, hey, how are they doing? What do they need to work on? And the cardinal rule is like, if they're only telling you good things, I just erase the whole conversation from my memory banks. Right?
And
like
that's fair. I mean, the problem is they tell you all good things, and then that player doesn't pan out. Like, it's gonna be hard to ever call them back, you know? So
right.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah. And there's more that the number of coaches that I trust what they say is far fewer than the opposite. So it's just there's Tom Crean did a really interesting, I think it was with Woj, podcast about that back in the day, about from a college coach's perspective, how you handle questions from NBA scouts. And it's like, yeah, you want to help your guys, but if you lose your credibility in the process, you can't help your guys. So Patrick has always maintained his credibility, but he's done so in a way that has been supportive of his guys. Like it's threading the needle in just the right way. But, that having been said, I do check in and I'm saying like, hey, who's having the better year? Who's been more durable? Who's been more willing to go inside? Who, all those things. And so, so I guess my point is, don't ask me about him. He knows better. I'm going to ask him. So
yeah. Well, you would never set your kids up for failure either.
No, but you have to be. I've been fortunate enough, right? AJ Griffin got drafted. RJ Davis is in the G League. Joel Soriano had teams calling. It's not just teams calling. Like Adam gets, he's given feedback to 10, 12, 14 teams, right? That bring him on. And there's many other Adams out there. There's scouts. I feel like there's more scouts with teams. I actually text Adam sometimes, like, is this guy legit? Like, is he real? Because I'm not going to divulge, because the conversations are...
They're personal.
They're personal, but a lot of it isn't about basketball. You're having the conversation because they're in a position to be... They're good basketball players. But and I tell our guys all the time, like, and now, not only the NBA, right? NBA is a small percentage, but now the conversation, I know we're going to get to this in a minute with Adam, like, has shifted to some, like, NIL stuff and some marketing brands. Like, what are they like as people? Do they touch the line? Are they on time? Do they treat your trainer and managers with respect before we give them $1,000 or $50,000, right, to promote our brand? That's a whole nother thing that's come about now. So I know we want.
Are you responsible? Do you feel responsible to try and convey that to the next level coaches that are looking at some of the high school kids? Hey, I've heard he's a good kid. I heard he's a problem.
I wouldn't say that publicly. Like, I wouldn't, I'm not going to put that on their scouting report. I mean, if you go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, you might find some, some very light language about whether it's motor or body language.
Yeah,
if it's egregious enough where I've mentioned it even lightly, then it's pretty significant.
Yeah.
But like what I will say in the, when I talk to NBA teams or when I talk to college teams, those are conversations that are had with much more candor behind the scenes. But I'm not going to go on, I'm not going to go on CBS and say like, hey, this kid's got a bad attitude and his parents are a mess. And but that's how I would say it, privately to a college coach. And the other thing I would add to what Patrick just mentioned is, like, the other thing that is always asked, always, is tell me about the people around them. What are the parents like? What are, who are the influencers? Who else is involved? Are they a positive influence? Are they a negative influence? Who does the kid listen to? Because at some point, like, what we've seen time and time again is, sometimes the adults are the problem. And that's that's just an unfortunate reality, and it's so that's something that whether it's college teams or every NBA team definitely wants to know.
And I will say to our listeners, and Adam doesn't need to get just a tidbit, like these teams and now even colleges, they're investing so much money in these kids that they're doing their homework, right? They're calling the Adams of the world. They're calling. I mean, we've had more on the pro side, but like we've had teams call like the White Plains Police Department just to ask the question. Like they call the science teacher, right? And again, I always tell our guys, not about basketball, right? Most of the conversations are not. It matters. But Adam, Kev hit on the Twins a little bit, just a little bit on Josiah Jervis and his jump and growth from, for us, right? And everybody knows this, right? He came to Stepinac. We had no idea he was. credit to Flana and Rhodes for making that decision, choosing Stepinac over where he went, as a St. Ray's Grammar kid, an AAU program that really kids don't come to Stepinac, right? They made that choice because of the academics and whatnot. And then came off the bench as a freshman, increased role as a sophomore, to be in postseason MVP last year, to then just carry it into, unbelievable summer with the Wrens, to making Pete championship, to everything he's done, right? And he's got deficiencies as well, but just talk about him and going to Michigan State, just like you kind of hit on the Twins a little bit from your standpoint.
Yeah. I think it started, I think I first heard his name his sophomore year, like the beginning of his sophomore year. And I remember thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, but he was kind of like a bigger, stronger kid early on. Is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And usually to me, like that, again, that leads to some early productivity. But from an evaluator's perspective, it sometimes gives me pause where I see a kid who's physically developed as a sophomore and I say, okay, are they good because they're, just hit their, like I said, because they hit puberty earlier, or are, is there some like translatable stuff here? And I think to his credit, he was pretty advanced physically at an early age, but his game has continued to grow at each like step along the way, and no pun intended with step there. And this summer I think was really eye-opening for a lot of people to see him play such an important role on that Wrens team and to see him get all the way to the finals. And then candidly, I mean, I've seen you guys play, I don't know, maybe 10 times this year between Border League and all the events you've been at, and he's probably been, let's say I've seen you play 10 times. He's probably been your best player 8 or 9 of them. And I don't mean to make that competitive with the rest of your team. I probably should have framed that a different way. But
no, it makes sense.
I just think in terms of, he's a production guy, right? And he has continued to get better, continued to expand his game. And when you look at Michigan State, like, I think there's an opportunity for him to go right in and make a real immediate impact. I mean, I know they've got Kurt Tang there at the 2-guard spot, but they're one of those teams that has like a true point guard, right? Fears is the point guard. And a lot of teams, the 1 and the 2 aren't as differentiated as they are at Michigan State, at least right now. But I think he's going to play immediate minutes. I think he's on a team that's going to be really, really good if they return everybody they project to return. So really good fit, clear opportunity, and credit to the kid for just getting better at each step along the way. And obviously by extension, that means credit to the people around him who have helped him get better at each step along the way.
Down the final stretch here of the season, Adam, is there any players out there that are still, obviously Mingo committed, Jordan Smith committed? Is there anybody else out there that's kind of still hanging in the balance?
Oh yeah, I mean Tyron Stokes, the number 1 ranked prospect in the country, and he's not committed. I think that Brandon McCoy's still out there, Christian Collins is still out there, Caleb Holt is still out there, of course. Bruce Branch is still out there. So there's a handful of 5-star guys that are still out there, and I think they're just kind of waiting it out to see, let the season end, let the portal open.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Be able to get all the information before they make a pick based on where they're going to go next year, which I think that makes sense. And because, if you're a 5-star prospect, that comes with correlated NBA draft expectations. I wish it wasn't that way, but that's just the reality of what these guys feel. And this 2027 draft is going to be like really wide open. And it sucks that this has to be a big part of their decision-making process. But I think there's a lot of play. Even Jordan Smith, who you mentioned came off the board to Arkansas. Initially, I thought that one was going to play out longer, but I think it just became clear to him, okay, I'm going to have a real opportunity at Arkansas to go in and make an immediate, significant contribution and put myself in the best position possible. And I think the rest of these guys are just waiting until it becomes similarly clear to them to pull their trigger. And that happens for different kids at different times.
Can you just hit on, because you mentioned this and this wasn't in any sort of the prep stuff I sent you, just hit on, because I get asked this and I don't really know, right? Can you just hit on how you guys, or how you go about the whole 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, no star? Like, I don't even know the answer. Like, I've never really had that conversation. And people ask me all the time, like, why aren't your guys 5 stars, or why don't they get another star? I'm like, I don't know. Why? How did they just hit on that?
Yeah,
I really don't know
would
the
say
answer.
this is that the star system used to be more relevant than it is now.
Right.
So
right.
I tend to think I rank them first.
Right.
And then we go in and do the grades, and the stars are a byproduct of the grades. So in our system, anybody who's a 98 or higher gets a star.
Got it.
But I think the context is important here. Like my priorities when I rank, let's start here. When I'm ranking guys, and I'll do it first, like I'll do it by position, like I'll rank every center in the country internally first, and then I'll do every, forward in the country. And then I use those lists to build into the national list. What the criteria for that, and it's an imperfect system because we're trying to synthesize 3 different variables into one number. The biggest thing is long-term professional upside. And obviously that's most relevant at the very top of the class. When we're talking about beyond the top 20, it's just not much of a factor. But at the end of the day, if the top 3 picks, like last year, Con Kneppel ruined it for me. We were very close to having it would have been the first time in history that the top 5 picks in the draft were the top 5 ranked players from any national recruiting service the year away.
Wow.
So I was like, quietly pulling for that just because that would have been a pretty cool accomplishment. So
yeah.
That's the biggest variable at the top is NBA upside. And then the second one is immediate college productivity. So like who's going to be the best college player. So both of those are about projecting a futures market, but they're different levels, right? Like sometimes you can be an immediate impact, like Caden Mingo, for example, at Penn State. One of the best freshmen from a productivity standpoint out there, but not necessarily perceived as a one-and-done candidate. So you're trying to synthesize those into 2 different things. And then the third, which is less valuable, is who's the best right now. And those 3 variables are obviously intertwined. But again, it's an imperfect system because you're trying to synthesize that down into one thing. And at the end of the day, what I would say is once we put them in that order, to me, the guys that we give those 5 stars for are ones that we project have I think it's fair to say, a reasonable chance to be one and done. But it should also be a barometer of how talented the class is. Like, for example, this year's college basketball freshman class is obviously elite, right? So their corresponding 2025 recruiting class should have more 5-star prospects than this 2026 recruiting class. So it's also a tool that you can use to measure the collective classes against one another, which I would say is another thing that's very relevant, more relevant than I think people realize for NBA teams as they're like planning on how to allocate their draft assets and stuff like that.
Yeah, just bring it up because it like you said, the stars have kind of gone away a little bit in notoriety.
It's a football. I think it's more of a football thing.
Yeah, more of a football thing probably. But the ranking matters. Like the ranking matters to these kids, right? Everybody, they know when it's coming out. When it comes out, it gets picked up by every graphic designer out there. It does matter a little bit. I could tell we've been fortunate enough to have highly ranked kids. Like it does matter how much money they get a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, not only from the colleges, but from these other, right? They want to be like, oh, we have the number 17th ranked player when we do a deal with them, right?
We want to have last month. Some AAU coach called me very upset because his kid's NIL offer was the justification the school gave him for offering him less money than they wanted was his ranking.
Yeah. So
how did you don't have to tell us, but read it, but how did you respond, or how do you respond to something like that?
I told him what I saw from a basketball standpoint, from a scouting standpoint, and I had analytics to support what I said. And so I said, like, hey, if this is what you did in the summer, and I don't want to give too much detail because it would be obvious who I was talking about. I tried to, a lot of those critiques are going to be like emotional in nature, which I get. Like, I don't want to cost any kid money or anything like that. But my response is just like, hey, that can't be a consideration for me. And here's what I did consider. And this is what I saw with my eyes. And this is what I went back to research, and the numbers supported my scouting impressions. And that's why I made the decision that I did. And at the end of the day, like, that ended up being a basketball conversation. So like, it was a productive conversation.
Yeah. So do you sleep over the next month with conference tournaments in college and everything coming up and everything going on?
I love my job. Like, this is fun. My wife doesn't love it because, like, when I've got to, if I've got to do like the midnight hit tonight and, my kids are sleeping above me and like, I've got to try, and we were joking about it yesterday, but I've got to try and express excitement while keeping my voice down. So it's like, great game tonight.
How old is your youngest? How old are your youngest? You have 3?
My kids I have 2. They're 13 and 10.
13 and 10, okay.
And now we've got a dog that's like sleeping over here. So it's, but this is like, listen, it is not lost on me how lucky I am. I like, this is, if this weren't my job, I'd be doing this stuff for fun. So,
you're all right with the travel stuff, or you're ripping and running.
You know why I am? Because it's all at my discretion. Like, right. I have a ton of autonomy. Like, if I want to go somewhere, I go. I don't have to. If I was spending frivolously, I would get called on it. But like, they trust me to do what I need to do, and that was a big thing for me when I came here, was to have the resources to do the job properly, to travel, and I do. But I manage it myself. I'm not going to get a call today and say like, hey, we need you to fly to wherever this weekend, like that. So that to me is why I get a lot of people who say like, hey, when is your goal to be in the NBA? And I'm pretty happy doing what I do because I'm not my own boss, but I do control my own schedule. And that is quite a luxury.
Quality of life, yeah.
Yeah, that's the quality of life for sure. And you not to blow smoke up their butt, but you do have a really good team of guys that are with you, team. That are all communicative.
I talked about Bossie before. Travis is a warrior. I mean, he gets out, he grinds it on the road, and his intel is better than anyone's. Deshaun London and Brandon Jenkins are 2 up and coming young guys, and so we've also got depth, right? I mean, we're at a company that's got 5 guys covering this, and I'm technically like on the CBS side, there was at one point at ESPN where we had a team of 5 or 6, but they were not all full-time employees. I mean, we were trying to make it work, but and I think now ESPN has 1 full-time recruiting guy, and I think Rivals has 2, one who does news and one who does scouting stuff. So there's a commitment, at CBS to do it and to provide the resources to do it right. And our goal is to be the most credible one. And I think we've done that. And but it's not possible if you don't have the resources.
Commitment's a good word. I think that's what CBS has given to this. Tell me, last week's show, I put Pat on the spot, and I asked him about...
Yeah, by the way, that went viral.
It went viral. I asked him about...
I didn't even know you were going to ask that. We usually talk about what we're going to do here.
We're very close, but we didn't. Sometimes I have to put him on the spot for us. I'll put you on the spot here, too. I asked him about... He always talks about running his practice, running his program like it's a college program, like it's a college practice, like it's college when they travel. Then he has his day job, which is very similar to how a college operates when it comes to fundraising and raising money. And I said, do you ever see yourself coaching college basketball? And I could see him not squirm, but he was ready. He had a very good answer. Do you
I actually saw this? Yeah, I saw this clip. Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Is it something that
should Patrick coach college basketball?
Should he and could he? Yeah, could he? What are your thoughts?
Of course. And I would say, I thought you were going to flip it on me, so this is great.
No, he's not going back to Hartford.
I'll say this. And I think Patrick, you made this point, but when I was at ESPN, one of the ways in which, like, I used to call America East games and MAC games, and so I had like the Iona games, right? And Tim Cluse, who started as a high school coach, was the best coach in the league every single year. He'd never been an assistant. He learned by, being in the fire, so to speak, and being a head coach. And I think there's a lot of great examples of that, like Dan Hurley, pretty good at what he does. So 100%. Could he do it? It is but like, just like me keeping my voice down at 11:30 tonight, that's a family decision. And it's, so it's about like, it's not about could you, it's not about would you be good. It's about like, I'm sure, does that work for, his family? And that's, I mean, that's.
Well, when he said he always wanted to be a coach, and then was a coach, and then said this wasn't for me, I was like, all right, here we go. This is a good.
You know who did see it? So a lot of people saw it. The comments, right, were great. And but Nate Oates and Nate and I, Nate hasn't gotten the last two guys recruited from us, so Nate doesn't have to talk to me, right? He doesn't. He texted me because he was like, "You left out Bucky McMillan," and so now I'm gonna, you talk about Tim Cluse, but Nate said I didn't know Bucky was a high school coach before he got into what he's. So people see it.
Yeah, no,
social media is everywhere.
And the irony of it too, like Nate and Dan are two of the most forward-thinking coaches in college basketball. So there's like when you're the head coach, I'll make this analogy. I told you I got fired, right? As a Division I assistant coach, we got fired. We lost our job, and then I became a prep school coach, and I lost far more sleep as a prep school head coach, knowing like job security wasn't a thing, but I lost far more sleep in those years than I did having to worry about my job as an assistant coach. Because when you move one seat over, you've got to anticipate every question and have an answer for it. Because as soon as one of your kids or one of your parents has a question, why do we do it this way, that you don't have an answer for, you're done. You've lost your credibility. You've lost that player, and it's the beginning of the end. So you've got to have the answers to the test ahead of time, and you've got to anticipate those questions. And there's no way to there's no way to simulate that. Yeah. And so, like, if you go from high school to college, like, there's a learning curve, sure. But being a head coach is in and of itself a unique experience, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I say mostly for public schools, it's 95% of your stress, but 5% of your salary. It's coaching high school. So it's really. Do you coach your kids?
What's that?
Do you coach your kids in basketball?
I do not. I do not. Truthfully, I've overcompensated a little bit, and I really wanted them to find like their own thing. So I didn't even push basketball at a young age. They both play now, but I don't think my personality type would be well suited to work with kids that young. Like I think I would have a hard time framing it in the appropriately positive way that I think it should be at that age group. And I'm lucky they've got, they've in our small town, and they play multiple sports, but they've got good coaches. So I can occasionally be that dad in the stands that just coaches my kid, but I try and fight it as best I can.
You must watch it in a way and say, well, I'm not going to be that parent. Like you must watch it at the high school level.
Truthfully, I have to sit by myself. Like everybody knows, like, and I always thought that was dumb when I saw other parents do it, but like, I don't, I just like, I'm trying so hard to not yell that I'm like, just let me be here by myself. And then I hope when it's over, we can talk afterwards.
I've got 3 kids. They're 13, 11, and 9. And I learned that holding the camera was, first, it repelled everybody away from you because they don't want to get their voice heard. But then it also was like, this is recording me too. So I just stay quiet the whole game. It's actually,
I was going to say, I don't think you want, I don't want anything capturing my I want some deniability there.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
It's, yeah. Yeah, right. I'm trying. I get it. Everybody's a parent. And I'm cognizant of that in my job too. Like everybody's a parent. I don't care who it is. I don't care how accomplished they are in the game. I've had literally have had NBA GMs tell me that I was like completely wrong on their kid because they were a dad before they were a GM. And it's the most consistent theme in the world. And I am a full member of that club.
Absolutely. Well, Adam Finkelstein, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy these next month and a half of basketball. It's the greatest time of the year, and we appreciate you giving us some of your time here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, Adam. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
Coach Pat,
Thank you.
Good, amazing perspective from him, and seeing, obviously what he's accomplished and what he's built in his career and now, and he just seems like he's, like I think he would be a great coach if he went back to coaching again.
He's so transparent in this game that a lot of people are not, and he's got great insight. His recruiting report, his scouting report, is one of the most respected in the country, and we appreciate having him on. Yeah, I got a little feedback. People were like, no guests last week. I'm like, oh, you couldn't listen to Kevin I? Like, all right, so we got you a guest back.
He was a great guest. We have some more guests lined up.
Yeah, we got more guests lined up. But, and we'll get more people in here. And we appreciate the feedback. I appreciate the feedback that people give on the show. It means people are listening and whatnot.
And so we definitely have a show next week. And
we do,
and we're almost, hopefully you guys are playing through the following weekend.
Yeah, we try to keep this going here, we're booked. We're booked next week, and by the win, we got the double bye.
Yeah,
and based on I turn my phone on Do Not Disturb when we sit in here.
Yeah,
but based on this thing ringing, I guess there's something going on or something that I gotta get to. But,
all right,
but we're all good. But another great episode and whatnot, and just wanted to. My guy RJ, how about him in the game-tying shot?
That was
in the G League,
amazing.
G League All-Star game there the other day. Like, no surprise. No surprise.
Just he's nails, man.
He's gonna get that call one day. I was talking to yesterday. Actually, one of the retired refs before our game came over to say hello, and we were talking just like Ty Jerome and Matt Ryan, Jose Alvarado, and different guys that he reffed. Raleigh Hawkins and guys that he reffed, and he was just going on. And he was talking about Jose and Ty, just how they just played basketball. They just were efficient and all that stuff. And we were talking, hopefully RJ's the next one up or whoever it is, you know, in the league, and it becomes a league thing. So
hopefully RJ's our next one up here on the show too.
Yeah, that'd be nice. We'll get him on the show. He used
California
3 hours.
Time. Yeah,
we're gonna have to adjust the studio time, but that's all right. It's all good.
Well, I appreciate your time. Appreciate Adam's time. I want to thank him once again. Adam Finkelstein was a great guest. I want to thank All Pro Cleaning and Restoration, White Plains Hospital. Episode 13 in the book. Stepinac Saturday, 1:00 at Mount St. Michael against Cardinal Hayes for our Archdiocesan Championship. And then the City Championship playoffs start the following week. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll see you soon here on the Inside Stepinac Basketball Podcast. The Inside Stepinac Basketball Podcast is back. And once again, it is brought to you by All Pro Cleaning and Restoration, a Balfour company, commercial, residential property restoration and construction company. Services include fire and water damage restoration, mold remediation, HVAC duct cleaning, and complete construction services. Been a valued service provider for Westchester County and the Tri-State area for over 35 years and a proud supporter of Stepinac basketball, as is White Plains Hospital, a sponsor of GameDay One, and has been so good to high school athletics, Stepinac basketball, and GameDay One since we started.